I am dumb. I want to make that clear because there's nothing wrong with being dumb. Sometimes just have to have a minute to get your head around it. Getting on to the video though, some people in wrestling seemingly are born to be bad guys. This is a good thing, ironically. If you're a natural at that, you're likely going to make it to the big time. Given that wrestling never ends though, sometimes you gotta try new things, and damn it, against all odds, a big old babyface turned work. So I am Simon Miller, and let's talk about some of the most surprising ones. Number 10, Baron Corbin. Hopefully this will have aged by the time you hear this, but WWE is wasting what they have with Baron Corbin. He went back to NXT a few years ago to re-find himself, and he did just that. Even went back to the drawing board, got that edge back, not Adam Copeland, and thanks to an awesome team with Bron Breakker, he became a beloved good guy. This wasn't forced either. Baron was doing such solid work you couldn't help but respect it, given this was a dude who was despised, especially in 2019 when he ruled the roof as Constable Corbin. Well, it just sums this whole list up. There's no rules here. Sometimes sports entertainment will surprise you, and again, we can absolutely do more with Baron. We are just on the tip of the iceberg. To be honest, I'm still a little bit mad about sad broke Corbin. That would have been the best babyface turn ever. Number 9, the Hurricane. All the way back in 2001. Well, the flub does the time go. Shane Helms basically set the bar for why goofy wrestling for life gimmicks can be fantastic though, because he became the Hurricane, and look at the track record. The man became a beloved memory for anybody who was watching at the time. Let's not forget that after the invasion was over, a lot of WCW guys found themselves persona non grata too, but not Helms. He was so popular, fans forgot where he came from. They just fell in love with the guy. He was genuinely entertaining. Shane could also go in the ring, which meant the gimmick was more than a one-trick pony. And even though he was meant to be a villain in 2001, by 2002 it was just an all-round joy. It also led to the super fun stuff with The Rock, which also wouldn't have worked if the Hurricane didn't connect with the audience like he did. Don't forget about the child crowd too. That's who wrestling is really for, and they ate this up. Of course they did. It was a real-life superhero. Number 8, the Big Boss Man. 1990 was an interesting time for wrestling. You know the deal. As the years did go by, a lot of wrestlers were going to have a secondary job. With the Big Boss Man, it was kind of intriguing too, because he was meant to be a corrupt policeman who decided to head to the ring and beat people up. Not sure you're meant to like that. The real-life Ray trailer then took on Ted DiBiase, and that's when all of this shifted. The $1 Million Man struck a deal with the Boss Man's manager Slick to go and get his $1 Million title from Jake Roberts, when the Cop decided, nope, that's not happening, and he turned babyface. It was the right move as the fans loved this, so yeah, the Boss Man just started saying the law was awesome, and if you crossed him, he'd take you to jail. I mean, I suppose he did know the right protocols. It just felt like it couldn't work because of the story we'd laid down, but a lot of this was thanks to Ray. He is a forgotten gem in 2024, a massive dude who knew exactly what to do depending on the feud. In many ways, he was ahead of the game. This is another character who is so fondly remembered today too, so it was definitely the way to go. Number 7, Nia Jax. So this was 2018, and fans wrongfully forget about this. It was really good. WWE actually cut their own legs off as they turned Nia Jax way too fast after she won the women's title, because the build to that victory had been so good. It was proper sports entertainment. Basically, despite her size, we found a way to get Nia loads of sympathy, thanks to Alexa Bliss being the worst bully of all time. She laid into Jax's looks, her past, her ring work. It was genuinely heartbreaking, mostly because of how Nia sold this. It looked like she was on the verge of tears the whole time. We can all relate to that. It also culminated with a lovely win at WrestleMania 34, and what a good moral story. Don't be a Eventually, it'll catch up to you. A few weeks afterwards, Jax was a bad guy again, I think just because Vince McMahon saw her as a monster heel. And look, in 2024, Nia has this down and then some. The other side is in her locker, however. And I don't think we should forget that. Know of any other surprising baby faces? Make sure you let me know in the comments below before you like the video, share the video, and subscribe. Number 6, The Miz. As recent as 2023, and this was wild, we talked about it during the intro, that Miz felt like a bad guy for life. It was all during Gunther's Intercontinental title reign, which could be the best of all time, and yeah, when The Miz challenged him for that belt, the ring general thought this was hilarious. The A-lister, as far as he's concerned, was a massive joke. That was too much for the real-life Mike Mizanin, though, and this was a risk. WWE had tried this before, and the fans didn't take to it. But things were different now. For you see, there's always a wonderful moment in wrestling when if you do put in enough time, the audience understands how deserving you are so they get behind you. This was the Miz's moment. So when he did remind Gunther of all this and all the crap he'd been through, yeah. You tell him, dude, you've had a Hall of Fame career and deserve all the plaudits. It got over so well, some were even saying The Miz should beat Gunther. And while that didn't happen, it did lead to the tag team with R-Truth and that very satisfying tag team title win at WrestleMania 40. They both deserved that. Their legacies speak for themselves. It's sort of funny as The Miz was a heel again before the end of 2024, but still, it is all true. The man is one of a kind. Number 5, Vince McMahon. So this is hard to talk about today for obvious reasons, but let's set the scene. In 1999, Vince McMahon was coming off being the most hated guy in wrestling. The Steve Austin feud had turned the WWF's fortunes around, and yeah, the thought of trying to pitch him as anything else seemed crazy. Not even entirely sure Vince himself had planned it. During this year, though, his daughter Stephanie did turn her back on her dad to join forces with Triple H as they ran roughshod over the company. Amazingly, this put Father McMahon in an interesting position. Man, it worked. This was mostly as Vince was shown as the dad who couldn't handle what was happening to his family, so yeah. That was relatable to a wider audience, much as Steve Austin had been wanting to whoop his boss's ass the year before. We've all experienced these emotions. It was never going to be a long-term decision, and eventually he did screw over The Rock, but you go and watch this today. McMahon actually found a way to be accepted by the audience. Triple H and Stephanie deserve credit for that too. As the heels, they were horrible. We certainly didn't need to make Vince the WWE champion during this, but that's a different story for a different video. And you know the deal. They just can't help themselves. Number 4, Paul Heyman. For most of his WWE run, Paul Heyman has been the evil manager. Brock Lesnar, CM Punk, the bad version of Roman Reigns. Hell, that's how he made the fans realize Roman was a bad guy now. We just sat him next to Heyman. It worked tremendously well as those two in the bloodline became the hottest act in the industry. And due to that, Paul also got the good guy rub. As well as everybody else, the crowd saw the wonderful work Heyman was doing week in, week out. This brings us to June 2024 when, the new bloodline led by Solo Sikoa decided Heyman was an issue and they threw him through Alan the announce table. The audience was livid. This had been underlined moments before because Paul had refused to acknowledge Solo as his tribal chief, and oh how they roared. It just sums up the power of this story too. Not only did Reigns turn into the super babyface people had always wanted, but the Usos, Sami Zayn and Heyman all benefited as well. Like a star-making vehicle. Paul may even be back on TV by the time you see this, and I already know he is going to get an amazing reaction due to all of the above, because Paul Heyman is an accidental babyface. Number 3, The Undertaker in 1992. You have to remember this was only 2 years into The Undertaker's WWF run, so he was still an undead zombie. How the hell are you going to make that work as a hero? Well, basically, we were going to lean right into the character. This was because Mark Calloway was so good at being sort of an empty vessel, you could paste whatever you wanted onto it, which is exactly what we did with Jake Roberts. Mr. Snake had decided he was going to smash Miss Elizabeth with a chair and was hiding backstage to do it when an ominous hand reached out to stop this, and it was the flipping Undertaker. Him and Jake had basically been teaming together and even ruined the Macho Man's wedding a few months prior when the Phenom decided no more, and it worked perfectly. Not only did the audience erupt for this, but look at the timeline. Taker didn't turn heel again until 1998. 6 years as the hero. It's also how the WrestleMania streak started because people wanted to see him win, and we did all of this without much emotion. That's another reason the gimmick is all time. Not everybody could have done this, it took some real skills. By 1993, the pops for the Tombstone was super loud, and how mad is that? The guy who used to throw people into body bags was our man. I mean, that really is wrestling. Number 2, Brock Lesnar. Another controversial figure today, but look, back in 2021, as much as fans enjoyed Brock Lesnar, I'm not sure anybody saw him as a babyface. His whole shtick was eating people alive. In terms of his second run, this went all the way back to 2012 when Paul Heyman reteamed with his beast. And they certainly got superstar reactions, but yeah, Brock was so dominant you were meant to hate him. The thing is, that wasn't the case when he returned in that 2021. Coming back at SummerSlam and basically being Cowboy Lesnar was also a surprise, but so were Brock's microphone skills. All of a sudden, he was more comfortable than ever. He was having so much fun with this as well, and dare I say it, here and there it even touched upon goofy wrestling for life. He could get away with it, though. As soon as he stepped in the ring, he mauled people. So yeah, that will do it. It's balance. It also helped he was feuding with Roman, who was just hated at this point, but still. Not sure anybody on their bingo cards had smiling, joking Brock Lesnar, but that's what we got, and it really helped the character. Turned out he did need something different, and he found it. Number 1, too cool. So we are going back to 2000 because you have to remember what we are dealing with here. Look at Grandmaster Sexay and Scotty 2 Hottie. You think they're good guy names? No, they are not. You then throw a massive Samoan man in there who wore a thong and told them to dance after matches, so again, on paper this should get booed. It was the total opposite. It gets even weirder as the group at first was meant to be the stupid version of the Hardy Boys, but you can never account for anything in the then WWF, and my word did fans love this. They actually bought tickets to see these through goofs wiggle their hips. You damn right. If you do go to the summer of this year, you can argue Too Cool and Rikishi are more over than anybody in the whole company. But again, it really does sound dreadful when you try and explain it to someone. It is why wrestling is the best though, and the powers that be had no choice. We turned them babyface, and let's face it, it remains one of the best memories from the Attitude Era. And when you threw all that into a package, that is saying quite something.